One step onto the red-marked ground was enough to ignite the confrontation. Su stood firm with his spear in hand, facing two savage beast-like creatures without flinching. The beasts roared against the ruined city backdrop, their cries rolling through the street as Su prepared to meet them head-on. Su studied their formation and quickly realized these creatures were not charging blindly, they were coordinating their attack. Glowing eyes burned in the gloom as the beasts growled around him, closing in with murderous intent. One creature flew into a rage and charged, its roar tearing through the tense air as the battle reached a breaking point. A calculating observer narrowed his eyes, intrigued by Su's composure as the crucial moment arrived. Energy crackled around Su as he steadied himself and prepared to strike the beast looming before him. The sudden attack caught Su by surprise, forcing him to react on instinct. Su slashed at the massive tiger with fierce precision, showing the skill he had built through brutal training. The beast collapsed, blood staining the ground beneath it. Su stood over the body, calm and confident in his victory. A powerful enemy struck Su before he could fully guard, knocking him out of his rhythm. The beast bared its bloodied claws and sharp teeth, then lunged again with furious killing intent. Su gripped his weapon and studied the fallen creature, confident but regretful. His raw strength was not enough to kill them all quickly. A lion-like beast sprang forward, eyes locked on the dark-haired young man as he raised his staff to defend. The beast's roar shook the ground, but Su held his position against the destruction unfolding around him. Su clutched his head in frustration, struggling to shut out the overwhelming noise around him. The dark-haired young man stood tall with his staff in hand, refusing to be shaken. He made it clear that intimidation would not work on him. Su drove his spear toward the monster, every movement sharpened by fury and danger. With dark hair whipping back, he launched a swift strike at the massive beast, his focus unwavering. His weapon cut through the air and crashed into the creature as the clash echoed through the street. Determination burned in Su's eyes as he swung his weapon across the chaotic urban battlefield. The dark-haired young man stared in shock at the display of overwhelming strength. Su could hardly believe one person had defeated them all alone. Standing over the defeated creature, Su imagined the ability points he could gain and could not hide his excitement over the harvest. Su tightened his grip on his sword, eager to find the next group of beasts before time ran out. The fallen tiger lay nearby as someone asked, impressed, how the dark-haired young man had mastered the long spear so well. Su held his weapon ready and declared with confidence that he was a lightning type. He clenched his fist, frustrated by the dismissive judgment being thrown at him. Su prepared to face the next threat while thinking back on the fierce beasts he had already slain. He sprinted down the deserted street with tigers in pursuit, fear rising as their roars closed in behind him. His high-level spear technique left the onlookers stunned, every movement sharper than they had expected. The school erupted in celebration as director praised the promising future ahead, while supporters cheered for the academy's rising star. A student with glasses celebrated Su's achievement, thrilled and surprised by how far he had gone. The silent core zone felt strangely empty. Su walked through it with his sword in hand, wondering where all the fierce beasts had gone. The group discussed the aftermath of Su's rampage, realizing there were barely any beasts left to find. Su protested in disbelief, insisting there should still be plenty of fierce beasts hiding in the core zone. On the 10th Street, a confident girl pointed at Su's score with obvious disbelief. The dark-haired young man stared at the scoreboard, stunned to see that he had reached 3,400 points. The girl explained Su's result, emphasizing that he had killed nearly 200 fierce beasts in the core zone alone. The dark-haired young man understood Su's plan. He had rushed ahead because he feared others would steal his kills. In the damaged city streets, Su warned the others that fierce beasts were still lurking ahead. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the confident girl proposed an alliance for the dangers to come. Beneath the crescent moon, Su stood on a pile of defeated beasts and declared that he would keep fighting. Exhaustion finally caught up with him as he sat down and considered the approaching end of the combat exam. Sue looked into the distance, deciding that if he wanted to grow stronger, he would have to push deeper where fiercer beasts waited. He checked his stats and saw that he had accumulated 2,413 ability points. Holding a mysterious device, Sue considered its use and decided to place something inside. He his weapon with relief, sensing that the final stretch of the combat exam was near. A monstrous creature charged at the group, forcing everyone to flee as Sue ran from the threat. Sue gripped his weapon with a confident smirk, intrigued by the fierce beast waiting in the exam. A sudden noise snapped his attention toward an unseen threat. A red-eyed bear snarled at Sue, its rage turning the air heavy around them. The bear roared at the vehicle, spreading fear through the group with its sheer presence. The beast's hide could shrug off missiles, and its strikes could kill in an instant. A panicked woman warned Sue how dangerous the situation had become. A long-haired young woman wavered, openly doubting whether the mission was worth the risk. Sue and his companions watched the beasts lurking nearby, and he quickly assessed how serious the danger was. A frightened but firm young woman declared that she wanted to quit, questioning why they should risk their lives for exam scores. An excited girl pointed toward an approaching figure, surprise and anticipation lighting up her face. She looked closer and urgently announced that Sue was coming, drawing everyone's attention to him. Sue leaped through the air with his energy staff, debris swirling around him as he focused on the battle ahead. The students buzzed with excitement at his arrival. One girl admired his presence, while a frustrated boy complained about how difficult the test had become. A horde of beasts surged forward, and the dark-haired young man froze for a moment before preparing to fight. Sue sprang into action with spear in hand, ready to confront the monster before him. He charged at the wolf-like creature, turning the clash into a burst of raw momentum. Creatures surrounded him from every side, but he shouted back defiantly and prepared to meet their attack. Transformative energy erupted around Sue, flooding the air with explosive power. A determined woman rushed forward to help him, afraid that his reckless choice would get him killed. She confronted the skeptical man beside her and insisted that they had to save Sue. The creature unleashed a violent burst of power that shook the ground, but Sue stood ready to face it. Electricity surged around him as he lifted his power toward the sky, while the others watched with fear and uncertainty. Lightning danced from his hand, shocking the dark-haired young man as he realized he had the lightning-type superpower Sue mentioned. Crackling energy surrounded him as he admitted that physical strength alone would not be enough and decided to activate his superpower. Power flooded Sue as he stood amid the chaos, awed by the overwhelming force of his S-grade ability. Facing the enormous creature before him, Sue summoned his power and prepared to attack. The massive white bear monster roared, shaking the ground and sending a chill through everyone nearby. Sue assessed the bear as bloodthirsty but slow, confident that divine thunder could handle it. Wolf-like beasts rushed in around him, and Sue warned that the smaller minions would become troublesome once the real fight began. He focused his energy, preparing to clear the battlefield before the enemies could surround him. Sue drove his spear into the monster, with fury behind every strike. He stood over the defeated Shadow Cat, the victory proving how far his strength had risen. Power coursed through him, and he considered the cost of wielding such overwhelming force. Sue faced the monsters without hesitation and declared that he would handle the ferocious beasts himself. A unicorn rhino lay defeated at his feet, another victory added to Sue's growing record. A beast lunged at the dark-haired young man, and Sue braced himself for the incoming attack. Dark force slammed into the ground and sent debris flying as Sue unleashed a fierce counterattack. A red-eyed bear crashed through the wall, but Sue faced its charge with steady resolve. Electric energy flared around Sue as he lunged toward the massive, crystal-embedded bear. The creature attacked, and the dark-haired young man braced himself for the impact. Lightning crackled as Sue leaped into the sky with his spear ready. Electricity surged as Sue unleashed a freezing strike that brought down the ferocious unicorn rhino. The monster roared with sharp teeth and glowing red eyes, facing Sue head-on. Weapon crackling with electricity, Sue smirked and taunted his enemy about its fallen minions. The creature charged, but Sue steadied his spear and warned it not to get impatient. The beast lunged so sharply that Sue realized, startled, it had predicted his move. Claws flashed as the beast sprang toward the dark-haired young man. A large creature burst through the debris and lunged at Sue, looming over him with crushing force. A shadowy figure tore through the dark barrier and burst out with fierce momentum. Lightning flashed around Sue as he prepared to strike the creature before him. He gathered thunder around his weapon and declared that he would test whether the beast's hide could withstand his power. Sue plunged his sword into the creature, electric energy crackling around the wound. A drone hovered through the chaos, weaving between bursts of energy with precise movement. Sue and the others braced for the attack as he focused on blocking the drone's assault. A glowing display crackled with lightning, leaving Sue astonished by what he saw. A frustrated young man challenged Principal, unable to accept that such power had been rated as E-class. Sue showed his strength with confidence, claiming he could defeat a high-tier rank 1 beast and even contend with a rank 2 boss. A worried man wondered whether Sue's ability had mutated, while another figure stood silently beside him. Electric tension gathered around Sue as he prepared to release his full strength. A white wolf erupted with energy, growling in wild fury. The monstrous wolf lunged, but Sue stood ready to meet it head-on. He launched into the air, gripping the pole with fearless control. Sue drove a powerful kick into his struggling opponent on the ground. He studied the fierce bear's defenses, noting its tough bristles, resistance to blades, and poor electrical conductivity. The red-eyed creature loomed before him, but Sue stared it down with firm resolve. Sue reacted in shock to the unexpected news that had just been revealed. The beast lunged through scattering debris, and Sue prepared to meet the threat. The ground trembled as he channeled energy through his staff with steady focus. The bear roared with berserk ferocity, and Sue prepared to confront it while keeping its skill in mind. A massive wolf charged with terrifying force, but Sue faced it with defiant readiness. The creature's roar shook the air as the dark-haired young man sprinted away, fear driving him forward. Sue assessed the beast's terrifying strength, astonished by how fierce it had become. He prepared to engage it carefully, warning that the beast would lose its limited intelligence and become a killing machine. Debris whipped through the air as Sue dodged the incoming threat with remarkable agility. Electric energy surged around his glowing staff as he prepared a decisive strike. Lightning gathered as he focused his power, ready to unleash a devastating blow. Electricity swirled around Sue as he launched a fierce attack at the massive creature. The beast charged through a wave of debris, barreling straight towards Sue. Divine lightning gathered around him as he prepared to unleash his strength. The clash erupted in a burst of electricity, testing Sue's resolve against the creature's shocking force. Lightning stormed around him as he released a powerful energy attack. The beast lay defeated before him, leaving a tense silence in the aftermath. Sue focused intently as purple energy formed in his hand. A beam of power shot toward the dark presence as Sue launched another fierce attack. Sue stood firm against the towering beast as it prepared to strike. The red-eyed monster lunged, but Sue held his ground and prepared to meet it. Facing the unseen threat, Sue declared that it was time to act. Lightning surged around him as he gathered his energy and unleashed a devastating strike across the dark battlefield. An explosion sent debris flying, and an alert figure shouted a warning about the danger. The massive creature slammed toward the ground, scattering debris as Sue prepared to respond. The bear lunged with bared teeth, but Sue stood ready for the clash. After the brutal fight, Sue rested with his spear, relieved that it was finally over and satisfied with his upgraded power. He reflected on the thrilling battle with a faint smirk, still feeling the rush of victory. Sue crouched with his spear and wondered how many points he would earn for clearing the core area's beasts. The audience gasped as the rankings appeared, revealing Sue's astonishing victory. The crowd erupted in joy as Su celebrated a record-breaking score beyond all expectations. Su smirked as the crowd discussed him, stunned that his score had surpassed last year's champion. If you'd like to see your favorite titles retold, leave a comment and I'll be sure to pick some of them up from time to time. Also, let me know which video format you like, more long videos or short ones. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you again soon.